All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to do some more history trivia today, and this is actually not a website I've used before. This one is called, not a YouTube channel I've visited before, Trivia Quizzes, but I'm hoping they'll be a little harder this time, give us a real challenge, and we'll see how many I get wrong. I'll put the link in the description as always. If you have a particular trivia video of some kind that you think would really stump me and you'd love to throw at me and have me take a look at, leave me a link down in the description. I'll have to approve links to spam protection thing. But if you post it and it doesn't show up right away, trust me, I will see it and I will approve it, and then you'll be able to see it down below. But I want to give a shout out to Anthony from Bronx, New York, and Kathy from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Thank you so much for your support on Patreon. Let's dive into this one. So how this is going to work, how I do this with these trivia things is I'm going to let the question play out, and then before they give the answer, I will give my answer. That way there's time for folks to answer yourselves instead of me just trying to shout it out as quickly as I possibly can. And then if I know anything about the topic, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it. So
History trivia.
Dive in.
Trivia questions read out loud. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment saying I subscribed, and we will personally respond to your comment. Keep track of your score and watch until the end, where we have added a bonus question that only 50% of people get right.
Okay.
1. In which year was D-Day?
All right, so we're starting out kind of easy, and it doesn't look like we're going to get any kind of a timer on here, so I guess I'm just going to have to pause and give you guys a chance to answer this. But D-Day is not 1941, not 1942, 1945. It is June of 1944.
A.
Most people get
1944. B. 1941. C.
that one. I was just going to read the choices.
1942. Or D. 1945.
44.
The answer.
So, yeah, and understand that we often talk about June 6th, 1944, right? Well, it could have been June 5th. They postponed it by 24 hours.
There is A. 1944. 2. Which ancient civilization used to worship turkeys as gods? A. The Incan civilization. B. The Chinese civilization. C. The ancient Greek civilization. Or D. The Maya civilization.
I'm going to go with the Maya. I have no idea.
The answer is D. The Maya civilization.
Total guess. Total guess.
3. Which famous conqueror was attacked by a large group of rabbits? A. Julius
This I think
Caesar.
I do know.
B. Napoleon Bonaparte. C. Cyrus the Great. Or D. Alexander the
I
Great.
think it was Alexander. Now I'm thinking maybe it's Julius Caesar. I'm going to go with Alexander, though.
The answer
Napoleon.
is B.
Oh.
Napoleon Bonaparte.
I'm a little disappointed I didn't know that one. I'm actually in the process of a really long audio book on Napoleon. I am learning a ton, and I cannot wait to do some more Napoleonic content for you guys because I'm so deep into this book and really enjoying it. It's called Napoleon, A Life by Andrew Roberts. And there you go. You can kind of see it through the green screen a little bit there. Fantastic so far. There's like 30,000 existing letters that Napoleon wrote from his lifetime, and so there's a ton to be learned, and that's one of his primary sources he uses are those letters. So good.
4. Which was the 17th century privateer Captain Morgan's first name? A. Henry. B. Alexander. C. Benjamin. Or D. Thomas.
I'll go with Henry. I have no idea. This is hard. Henry.
The answer is A. Henry.
I'm 2 for 3 on my guesses where I wasn't
5.
sure.
Which dining utensil used to be considered sacrilegious? A. Chopsticks. B. Knives. C. Forks. Or D. Spoons.
So I feel like it's got to be forks. It can't be spoons because spoons were used in religious ceremonies like for anointings for kings. So I can't believe it would be spoons. Knives, I just don't see why that would be. It's got to be forks.
The answer is C. Forks. 6. Which American president is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame? A. Jimmy Carter. B. Abraham Lincoln. C. Theodore Roosevelt. Or D. Franklin D. Roosevelt?
It's Lincoln, but I think TR's not, but I think George Washington is. Lincoln definitely is.
The answer is B. Abraham Lincoln.
Did a whole video on that.
7. Which American president died from eating
None
too
of
many
them.
cherries? A. Zachary Taylor. B. Benjamin Harrison. C. Franklin Pierce. Or D. Grover Cleveland?
I know the answer they want here is Zachary Taylor. And since she's reading them out, I'm just going to go ahead and answer it once she's done reading them out. I think that's probably the easiest way to do this, so it gives you a little bit of time to guess. The answer they're going to say is Zachary Taylor, but I don't think that's true. They talk about him eating like cherries with ice cream and he got sick, but really there was something in the water, quite literally, in Washington at that time, and that's why you had so many presidents die either in office or shortly after they left office, family members of presidents dying, other members of Congress and things like that dying. It was a bad time to be in Washington. It's Taylor.
The answer is A. Zachary Taylor.
None of those other three even died in office.
8. In which year were slaves emancipated in America? A. 1868. B. 1863. C. 1865. Or D. 1861.
Now, I'm really curious to see how they answer this question, because what is the right answer, right? The Emancipation Proclamation takes effect January 1st, 1863. But that did not free most slaves in America. That was a military act that was meant to give the Union the right to deprive the rebellious Confederate states or parts of states of their property. And so they were freed. But the majority of enslaved people in the United States, especially in the Union-controlled areas and in the northern states and the border states, that wasn't until December of 1865 when the 13th Amendment was ratified. They're going to say 63, though.
The answer is B. 1863. 9. Who was the first Prime Minister of Canada? A.
I have
John
absolutely
Abbott.
no idea.
B. Mackenzie Bowell. C. John A. Macdonald. Or D. Alexander Mackenzie?
I'm going to go with Alexander Mackenzie. I don't know why. I actually have no idea.
The answer is C. John A. Macdonald.
Interesting.
10. The terrorist attacks of 9/11 took place on which day of the week?
Remember this.
A. Wednesday. B. Thursday. C. Monday. Or D. Tuesday?
I remember this well because it was actually an election day in New York. I think it was a primary day or something, so it was definitely Tuesday. I mean, I remember that for a couple of reasons. It was our staff meeting day at the church that I was working at, and we were in a staff meeting while all that happened. I pulled into the church parking lot right around 9 o'clock, I think it was, and I had just heard on the radio about the first plane hitting the tower. All the rest of it was done by the time I got out of that staff meeting. I had no idea. It's Tuesday.
The answer is D. Tuesday. 11. Which was the most commonly used weapon by Egyptians? A. Bow and arrow. B. Spear. C. Sword. Or D. Dagger?
I'm going to go sword here. I could be completely wrong. I'm guessing sword. Bow
The
and
answer
arrow.
is A. Bow and arrow.
Interesting.
12. In which country was Pope John Paul II born? A. United Kingdom. B. Poland. C. Germany. Or D. Belgium?
So his name was Karol Wojtyła, I think is his name. He was from Poland. First non-Italian pope in hundreds of years at that point. And then we followed him up with a German pope. I think he was the Archbishop of Krakow, I want to say. Because then I know that Joseph Ratzinger, who became Pope Benedict XVI, was the Archbishop of Munich. Now we have an Argentinian pope.
The answer is B. Poland. 13. Who was Hitler's second in command? A. Heinrich Himmler. B. Hermann Göring, C. Joseph Goebbels, or D. Martin Bormann?
So Himmler was in charge of the SS. Goering was in charge of the Luftwaffe. Goebbels was the propaganda minister. Bormann was like his architect, his like interior guy, right? He was like the slave labor and all that stuff. But the deputy Fuhrer, at least early on, was Rudolf Hess, until he flew his plane to Scotland on this crazy mission to try and make peace with the British, and ended up spending the rest of his life in prison. So are they going to go with Goering here? Because he was, I think, second in command late in the war.
The answer
Himmler.
is
Okay.
A. Heinrich Himmler.
I'm not sure what their criteria
14.
is there.
In which year was Martin Luther King Jr. assassinated? A. 1967, B. 1964, C. 1968, or D. 1965?
It was April of 68. I want to say April 4th. I know it was April.
The answer is C. 1968.
And that was quite a year, quite something, because it was a presidential election year. You're right in the middle of this very unpopular war in Vietnam. You have Martin Luther King Jr. assassinated in April, and then Bobby Kennedy assassinated, I think, in June, right after winning the California primary. And, of course, there's a very famous video of Bobby Kennedy speaking at the time that the announcement was made about Dr. King being assassinated. And very moving, especially knowing that a few months later he'd be assassinated.
15. Which liquid did the Romans once use as mouthwash? A. Snake blood, B. Urine, C. Ocean water, or D. Apple juice?
It's urine. Definitely urine. If only it were apple juice.
The answer is B. Urine. 16. Who was the first woman appointed to the Supreme Court? A. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, B.
Ginsburg?
Sonia Sotomayor, C. Eleanor Kagan, or D. Sandra Day O'Connor?
So Sandra Day O'Connor by Ronald Reagan. Although Elena Kagan, Sonia Sotomayor, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg are also Supreme Court justices, Kagan and Sotomayor are still on the court. And, of course, we've had one more woman since then, a total of 5 that have been on the court. No, 6, because we've got Sotomayor. We've got 4 women on the court right now. So, yeah. Sandra Day O'Connor. From Arizona, I think.
The answer is D. Sandra Day O'Connor.
Actually, I know it's Arizona because I spoke at Sandra Day O'Connor High School, which is where the one winner of American Idol went. Oh, gosh, what was her name? I'm trying to remember her name now. I finally remembered it. It was Jordan Sparks. I had to stop and think about it for a minute. She was, I think, the youngest winner of American Idol ever, but I spoke at her high school. Huge, huge school.
17. Who was the wealthiest pirate in recorded history? A. Captain Samuel Bellamy, B. Edward Teach, aka Blackbeard, C. Sir Henry Morgan, or D. Henry Every, aka Long Ben?
Never even heard of him, but I'm going to go with Bellamy. It's probably the guy I've never heard of.
The answer is A.
Total guess
Captain
again.
Samuel Bellamy. 18. Which year did the Japanese attack Pearl Harbor? A. 1943, B. 1940, C. 1941, or D. 1942?
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. Iconic speech.
The answer is C. 1941. 19. Which American president opened a whiskey distillery after his presidency? A. George Washington, B. John Adams, C. Thomas Jefferson, or D. James Madison?
George Washington. Definitely Washington.
The answer is A. George Washington.
Which is kind of fascinating to me because during Washington's administration, there was something known as the Whiskey Rebellion. At that time, the federal government didn't have a lot of different ways to make money. There wasn't a federal income tax or anything like that. So the federal government made money from import taxes, but also from the tax on things like whiskey. And there were a pretty heavy concentration of whiskey producers in places like southwestern Pennsylvania, Washington County, Pittsburgh, that area. And there was something called the Whiskey Rebellion, where these guys kind of rose up in rebellion against, it wasn't an active rebellion, it wasn't like the Civil War, but the federal government did organize an army from militia recruited from a few of the area states, and George Washington and Alexander Hamilton rode out at the head of an army that they were going to put down the rebellion. Fascinating story. We might have to dive into that one sometime.
20. Which is the deadliest war in human history? A. Mexican-American War. B. World War II. C. The Revolutionary War. Or D. World War I.
Well, the Revolutionary War and the Mexican-American War did not result in that many deaths. I mean, there were battles in World War I and World War II that killed more than those two wars combined. World War II is the answer here, though I think that is a debatable answer, especially if you are talking in percentage of humanity that was lost. Because you can go back centuries to some of these civil wars that happened in China, that as a percentage of people involved and as a percentage of world population were much, much more devastating than World War II. But the answer is World War II here.
The answer is B. World War II. 21. In which city and state did Rosa Parks refuse to give up her bus seat? A. Montgomery, Alabama. B. Little Rock, Arkansas. C. Birmingham, Alabama. Or D. Charleston, South Carolina.
Got to be Montgomery because that's where the bus boycott was. The Montgomery bus boycott.
The answer is A.
Yep.
Montgomery, Alabama. 22. Which is the only American president to be impeached twice? A. Richard Nixon. B. Bill Clinton. C. Donald Trump.
Spelled Reagan wrong.
Or D. Ronald Reagan.
It's G-A-N, just so you know. Bill Clinton was impeached in like 93, 94. No, it was later than that. It was like 98, wasn't it? Donald Trump was impeached twice. He's the answer. And Richard Nixon would have been impeached if he'd not resigned first. And then the other one is Andrew Johnson, who was acquitted by a single vote. Keep in mind, there's a difference between impeachment and a vote to remove from office. Impeachment is basically the indictment. It's basically charging you with the crime, and then there's a trial in the Senate. And every time we've had an impeachment, the trial in the Senate has resulted in acquittal.
The answer is C. Donald Trump. 23. Which year did Mexico gain independence from Spain? A. 1810. B. 1805. C. 1821. Or D. 1809.
Pretty sure this is 1821, because it's fascinating then that just a decade and a half later that they dealt with their own breakaway independence movement by the Texans. I think it's 21.
The answer is A.
It's 1810?
1810.
Really? My goodness, how did I not know that? All right, so here's why it gets tricky. They declared their independence September 16th, 1810. They didn't actually win their independence until 1821. That was why I was thinking 1821 sounded right. That's when the Spanish viceroy, Juan Donoju, signed the Treaty of Cordoba ending Spanish rule. So I guess it's kind of like the U.S. declaring independence in 1776, but not actually signing the treaty that granted the independence till 1783. So I get it. So 1810 would, I guess, be technically the correct answer, the same way that 1776 is for the U.S.
24. Who was the first Roman emperor? A. Tiberius, B. Nero, C. Claudius, or D. Augustus?
It was Augustus.
The answer is D. Augustus. 25. Which year was Malcolm X assassinated? A. 1963, B. 1961, C. 1965, or D. 1964?
I feel like this is 65. I'm going to go with 65. It might be 64.
The answer is C.
Oh, 65.
1965. Yep. Bonus. Which branch of military did former President Ronald Reagan serve in? A. Army, B. Navy, C. Air Force, or D. Marines?
It's Army. He actually worked in the film industry. He was obviously an actor when the war broke out, and actually helped to make films for the Army, which was a big part of the war effort. Was these like what we would call propaganda films, or films promoting bonds and things like that. But Navy has been the primary means of service for presidents in the last 100 years or so. I mean, just kind of thinking back, you've had in the post-World War II era, let's see, I mean, we had Truman, who was Army. He was the last actual on-the-ground Army combat president we've had, commanded a battery in World War I. But then after that, you have Eisenhower, who was Army, but then you have Kennedy, who was Navy. Lyndon Johnson was Navy. I think, he was Navy. Richard Nixon was Navy. Jimmy Carter was Navy. I think Gerald Ford was Navy. George H.W. Bush was a Navy pilot. So a lot of Navy lately. So, but this answer is Army.
The answer is A. Army. How did you do?
Okay, so that was a bit more challenging than some of the other ones we've done. Let me know how you did compared to me. I didn't even keep track of how many I missed, but I missed quite a few. So that's a lot of area of knowledge to have, and not everybody has it. So I hope you learned something, though, along the way. And like I said, if you have a suggestion for another one you'd like me to do, let me know in the comment section below. Give a shout out to Bruce in Carrollton, Georgia, and also Joshua and Carlisle in the UK. Thank you so much for your support on Patreon. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.